Hello. Hello there. Welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about my channel and what I'd like to do with it. And I'm also going to be reading a little bit of H.P. Lovecraft's story, The Lurking Fear. It's the first story in this collection of stories. Now, in regards to my channel, I'm trying to create a space and build a community of like-minded creative people. I'm trying to build a narrative, my own story, called The Cosmic Hotel, where each video has callbacks to the previous video, and each video mentions characters from another video. A web of intertwined stories and characters and quests where everything has a purpose. Where I can make whatever I want, because the Cosmic Hotel sits between time and space. Anything can be possible in this story I've created. Darth Vader could fight Jack Sparrow if he wanted to, but only at the Cosmic Hotel, where all points of time connect. I hope you, as a viewer, enjoy it, because I certainly enjoy creating stories and being strange in said stories. Now, I'm gonna read a little bit from this book, and I want you to fall asleep and be relaxed and feel at ease and comfortable. You've made it to a safe space. We have a nice dark lighting. We have some wood-burning candles. And we have a lovely story to read. What on earth could be better? It seems to be about 23 pages. Let's begin. The shadow on the chimney. Number 1. There was thunder in the air on the night I went to the deserted mansion atop Tempest Mountain to find the lurking fear. I was not alone, for foolhardiness was not then mixed with that love of the grotesque and the terrible which has made my career a series of quests for strange horrors in literature and in life. With me were 2 faithful and muscular men, for whom I had sent when the time came. Men long associated with me in my ghastly explorations, because their peculiar fitness. We had started quietly from the village because of the reporters who still lingered about after the eldritch panic of a month before the nightmare creeping death. Later, I thought, they might aid me, but I did not want them then. Would to God I had let them share the search, that I might not have had to bear the secret alone so long, to bear it alone for fear the world would call me mad, or go mad itself at the demon implications of the thing. Now that I am telling it anyway, lest the brooding make me a maniac, I wish I had never concealed it, for I, and I only, know what manner of fear lurked on that spectral and desolate mountain. In a small motor car, we covered the miles of primeval forest and hill until the wooded ascent checked it. The country bore an aspect more than usually sinister as we viewed it by night and without the accustomed crowds of investigators, so that we were often tempted to use the acetylene headlight. That's an interesting one. Acetylene headlight, despite the attention it might attract. It was not a wholesome landscape after dark, and I believe I would have noticed its morbidity even had I been ignorant of the terror that stalked there. Of wild creatures there were none. They are wise when death leers close. The ancient lightning-scarred trees seemed unnaturally large and twisted, and the other vegetation unnaturally thick and feverish, while curious mounds and hammocks in the weedy, fulgurite pitted earth reminded me of snakes and dead men's skulls. Dead men's skulls swelled to gigantic proportions. Fear had lurked on Tempest Mountain for more than a century. This I learned at once from newspaper accounts of the catastrophe which first brought the region to the world's notice. The place is a remote, lonely elevation in that part of the Catskill where Dutch civilization once freely and transiently penetrated, leaving behind, as it receded, only a few ruined mansions and a degenerate squatter population inhabiting pitiful hamlets on isolated slopes. Normal beings seldom visited the locality till the state police were formed, and even now only infrequent troopers patrol it. The fear, however, is an old tradition throughout the neighboring villages, since it is a prime topic in simple discourse of the poor mongrels who sometimes leave their valleys to trade hand-woven baskets for such primitive necessities as they cannot shoot, raise, or make. The lurking fear dwelt in the shunned and deserted Meriton's mansion, which crowned the high but gradual eminence whose liability to frequent thunderstorms gave it the name Tempest Mountain. For over 100 years, the antique grove-circled stone house had been the subject of stories incredibly wild and monstrously hideous, stories of a silent, colossal, creeping death which stalked abroad in summer, with whimpering instances. The squatters told tales of a demon which sees lone wayfarers after dark, either carrying them off or leaving them in a frightful state of gnawed dismemberment, while sometimes they whispered of blood trails toward the distant mansions. Some said the thunder called the lurking fear out of its habitation, while others said the thunder was its voice. No one outside the backwoods had believed these varying and conflicting stories, with their incoherent, extravagant descriptions of the half-glimpsed fiend. Yet not a farmer or villager doubted that the Martins' mansion was ghoulishly haunted. Local history forbade such a doubt, although no ghostly evidence was ever found by such investigators as had visited the building after some especially vivid tale of the squatters. Grandmothers told strange myths. Grandmothers told strange myths of the Martin spectra, myths concerning the Martins family itself, its queer hereditary dissimilarity of eyes, its long unnatural annals, and the murders which had cursed it. The terror which brought me to the scene was a sudden and portentous confirmation of the mountaineers' wildest legends. One summer night, after a thunderstorm of unprecedented violence, the countryside was aroused by a squatter's stampede, which no mere delusion could create. The pitiful throngs of natives shrieked and whined of the unnamable horror which had descended upon them, and they were not doubted. Excuse me. They had not seen it, but had heard such cries from one of their hamlets that they knew a creeping death had come. In the morning, citizens and state troopers followed the shuddering mountaineers to the place where they said the death had come. Death was indeed there. The ground under one of the squatters' villages had caved in after a lightning stroke, destroying several of the malodorous shanties. But upon this property damage was superimposed an organic devastation which paled it to the insignificance of a possible 75 natives who had inhabited the spot. Not one living specimen was visible. The disordered earth was covered with blood and human debris, bespeaking too vividly the ravages of demon teeth and talons, yet no visible trail led away from the carnage. that some hideous animal must be the cause. Everyone quickly agreed, nor did any tongue now revive the charge that such cryptic deaths formed merely the sordid murders common in decadent communities. That charge was revived only when about 25 of the estimated population were found missing from the dead, and even then it was hard to explain the murder of 50 by half that number. But the fact remained that on a summer night, a bolt had come out of the heavens and left a dead village whose corpses were horribly mangled, chewed, and clawed. The excited countryside immediately connected the horror with the haunted Martin's mansion. The localities were over there miles apart. The troopers were more skeptical, including the mansion only casually in their investigations and dropping it altogether when they found it thoroughly deserted. Country and village people, however, canvassed the place with infinite care, overturning everything in the house, sounding ponds and brooks, beating down bushes, and ransacking the nearby forest. All was in vain. The death had come, had left no trace save destruction itself. By the second day of the search, the affair was fully treated by the newspapers, whose reporters overrun Tempest Mountain. They described it in much detail and with many interviews to elucidate the horror's history as told by the local grandees. I followed the accounts, languidly at first, for I am connoisseur in horrors. But after a week, I detected an atmosphere which stirred me oddly, so that on August 5th, 1921, I registered among the reporters who crowded the hotel at Lefert's Corners, nearest village to Tempest Mountain, and acknowledged headquarters of the searchers. 3 weeks more, and the dispersal of the reporters left me free to begin a terrible exploration based on the minute inquiries and surveying which I had meanwhile busied myself. So on this summer night, while distant thunder rumbled, I left a silent motor car and tramped with 2 armed companions up the last mound-covered reaches of Tempest Mountain, casting the beams of an electric torch on the spectral gray walls that began to appear through giant oaks ahead. In this morbid night solitude and feeble shifting illumination, the vast box-like pile displayed obscure hints of horror which day could not uncover. Yet I did not hesitate, since I had come with fierce resolution to test an idea. I believed that the thunder called the Death Demon out of some fearsome secret place, and be that demon solid entity or vaporous pestilence, I meant to see it. I had thoroughly searched the ruins before, hence I knew my plan well, choosing as the seat of my vigil the old room of Jan Martin's, whose murder looms so great in the rural legends. I felt subtly that the apartment of this ancient victim was best for my purpose. The chamber, measuring about 20 feet square, contained, like the other rooms, some rubbish which had once been furniture. It lay on the 2nd story, on the southeast corner of the house, and had an immense east window and narrow south window, both devoid of panels or shutters. Opposite the large window was an enormous Dutch fireplace with scriptural tiles representing the prodigal son, and opposite the narrow window was a spacious bed built into the wall. We're gonna leave the story there. Let me know if you'd like me to continue. H.P. Lovecraft. H.P. Lovecraft's The Lurking Fear. And I'll continue to read it and many other books on this segment of my channel. Thank you very much for watching. And if you made it this far, very cool. Let me know if you loved or hated it. It's time for you to go to bed. Good night.